It's kind of my first, I guess, video essay. Um, Again, I'm just kind of doing wide spectrum of videos, see what catches. Again, I'm pretty much mostly here for my side business. More on that later. So today I'm going to be talking about a topic that's kind of, I guess, close to my heart is so bad it's good movies and what makes one that way. So background on me, I didn't discover MST 3K until I was like around 20ish. I think I was only like 8 when the show actually ended, so I kind of was a little behind there. I know I just heard about it, check out the free ones online, and got big into it. Um, I've subscribed to the rifftrax app for a couple of years now. I've actually bought 2 DVDs from them and then donated them to the library I work at. Our cataloger was kind of mad at me. And also, I like channels like Dark Forums Reviews and Fanboy Flicks. Um, do similar things. Just kind of checking that out. I've gotten other people sort of into it, or at least tried. um, so for me, the Mount Rushmore of bad movies, or at least my personal one, it's Planet from Outer Space, because that's like the original one. I mean, even Seinfeld talked about it. Miles, The Hands of Fate, the worst movie from Mystery Science Theater. The Room, and then this one, last one's more personal, but Birdemic. Especially if you're a Tracks fan, they reference it like most most riffs they do now. In case you know, Riff Tracks is what some of the guys from MST are doing now, basically the same thing. So the topic of good bad movies or bad good movies, however, I'm gonna be using those terms interchangeably instead of saying so bad it's good, just for verity's sake. Um, it's kind of tricky. Also, it depends for everyone, and I guess your style if you're gonna be making fun of it yourself. But one thing that's pretty clear is it's essentially impossible to make one um, one intentionally, and it's kind of people who other people who think they're clever or who think they're hilarious. If you're one of the very few people who've watched my commentary about the crazy stuff I saw on dating apps, you'll know that that's a big thing, especially now. Is not just thinking you're funny, thinking you're hilarious, because there's a very fine line. It's a fine but clear difference between that. And a lot of movies now, especially, do that of like winking at the camera, both literally and metaphorically. Um, and it's kind of hard to exactly describe when someone thinks they're hilarious as opposed to thinking they're funny. It's almost kind of like definite, the old government definition of porn is I can't describe it, but I know when I see it. And again, that's also different for everyone else. Um, so you have to be leery about that when trying to find a bad good movie. And you also have to worry about backpedaling because, like for example, Tommy Wiseau from The Room and James Wan of Birdemic, they both backpedaled when their movies got popular and they realized they're popular because people were making fun of them and said, "Oh no, it's supposed to be a satire." Da, da, da. Like for example, Birdemic 2, which besides being a ripoff of the first one, was trying to be self-aware and like intentionally over the top, and it ended up being just as bad, almost. But at least it was trying something different. Birdemic 3 went back to being a straight romantic thriller, but somehow, dare I say, worse than the first one. Um, Anywho, and comedy movies are kind of hard to be so be so bad it's good, or just to make fun of, because a bad comedy is usually just a not funny comedy, which kind of kills it. Although there are plenty of movies that have comedic moments that fall flat because of it's well just bad or juvenile, or it's a moment of they think they're hilarious, so they're like hitting, they're beating this joke to death repeatedly. So that's kind of hard. So that can be a factor too. Now the best ones are ones where the people legitimately tried but utterly failed, like Ed Wood. He tried his hardest. He failed horribly. Fortunately, died broken and drunk. Um, but he gave us Plan 9 and some other terrible movies. And also, the best ones for this, they aren't necessarily like literally the worst movies. There's something extra. There's some kind of thing that's kind of hard to describe almost. And they have a number of these characteristics that I've noticed, and I'm going to talk about. A common thing is if you have one person who does multiple roles. So one person is the writer, the director, the editor, the star, any combination therein. Partly, I think, is because there's no system of checks and balances. It's not the director saying, "Hey, I need to fix this writing," or the actors going, "Hey, this doesn't really work. Let me try this." If it's all the same person, they're in control. And also, a lot of these tend to be vanity projects, which the short of it is, vanity projects are meant to make the person look good. The Room is one. Time so has everyone saying how great his character is. Neil Breen, who's never made a good movie in his life, every one of his movies is a vanity project where he's the one saving the world, he's a superhero, he's whatever. Movies are god awful. I've only seen a few of them so far, but I've seen a lot of like I think Family Flicks has done all of them. Bad movies, Mark. Yeah, check it out his videos. Um, and the kind of thing is just getting the basics wrong. Inconsistent lighting, where it's just too dark, too bright. It jumps, even when characters are supposed to be talking to each other. Same thing with sound, which is all over the bloody place. Leading in mistakes, like flubs, which I do because I don't care. Boom mics, huge continuity errors. Some of you know yourself. I look up every movie I watch on IMDb, probably for the goofs. Some are like, wow, whoever wrote this needs to get a life. They notice this. Other ones are pretty bad. Like, did that character die? Bad effects, of course, with the caveat of for the time. Um, like, Play 9, it came out in the 60s. The effects are terrible back then, too. Like, and then you have up to, let's say, Birdemic, where the CGI looks worse than if they just put puppets on strings. And that movie came out less than 20 years ago, I think. Um, and also, kind of one good thing that helps is when a person has made multiple movies, and you can like bounce off of the trends because a lot of these people don't learn from their mistakes. Like Neil Breen and James Nguyen, a lot of common threads, especially if they use like recycled characters or actors. The Polonia brothers. I still am not 100% sure where they are on the. Do they know that's a bad movie or not? But it's kind of fun to like see like, oh hey, you were that terrible Dracula, and now you're a drunken robot guy, or I don't know. I'm not exaggerating that much. Check out their stuff. I think pretty much all their movies are like on TV, but whatever. Um, Now one thing I've learned is that writing writing characters to sound and act human is way harder than I thought it would be, based on the bad movies I've seen. Where it's just like, you know, no one has ever said that sentence or reacted that way. And when it comes to this, it's a bit of the chicken or the egg sort of argument. Like, okay, is it the writing? Is it the acting? The best thing is obviously when it's a combination of both. You have bad lines and bad line reading. Um, you know, like in The Room, reacts to his girlfriend accusing him of hitting her. No human's ever acted that way before. And he also wrote it, and apparently he had trouble remembering the lines that he freaking wrote. Um, Birdemic, his actors couldn't walk correctly or say solar panels, which I'm surprised I said it correctly because now every time I say it, I in my head make fun of it and say it incorrectly. Again, the line was stupid, usually, and the actor also was terrible. And from what I've seen, he also seems like he's an idiot in real life. And at least with those two cases, I know part of it is that the writers English is their second language, which obviously I'm not blaming them for that, but they wrote it in like the kind of staccato way that they talk, especially James Wynn. I'm blaming them because they were too stubborn to change, which is a lot of things. I mean, you can see that kind of many facets of life of why things go downhill. You watch shows about like Restaurant Impossible where they're rehabbing a restaurant. A good chunk of it, of why it went downhill, is because there's one person with an iron fist who's too stubborn to listen to other people or change. Movies, same thing. You can, you know, you can have examples to the end time. Even libraries have that. Now, but back to the actors thing. One kind of fun thing is if you have a famous actor, but it's like before they were famous, or especially if it was like after their peak, and they're doing this kind of crap. So you can bring up previous roles, awards, or it's like, well, an Oscar. 10 years later, I'm doing this crap. To make fun of. Or it's also good. Now we have the term Nepo baby, but people who with famous relatives, like I think Chad McQueen, Steve McQueen's son, did a couple of bad ones. One gold mine is Joe Estevez, even back from Mystery Science Theater to today with rifftrax. Martin Sheen's brother. Again, I don't think he's ever been in a good movie. If he has, it's news to me. Um, Another kind is later sequels or prequels are good because again you can compare it to previous movies of back when the series was good, assuming it's that kind of series. Also, if they're just kind of like rehashing or like basically stand-in actors, that's a lot of good things to see how the mighty have fallen. Say with the actors. Plot wise, it can be there's a couple different options. A movie can be boring, but it can't be too boring unless you're really experienced with this kind of stuff. Like for example, A Talking Cat has so much stock footage and time filler. It's worth it for the other parts, but still, you gotta be a little more experienced if you're gonna riff that. You have to be more tolerable. Mouse and Birdemic have like long driving stretches. Again, those have more stuff going on, and you have to wait a little bit to the good stuff. But again, it's worth it. So, and also the plot, it could just simply be too simple. It could be too convoluted. It could just be nonsense going weird. It could be a ripoff, which I'll get to in a second. So there's just lots of options for the plot, and again, it factors in how it plays with the other movies. I forgot to set my timer, so I gotta make sure I don't run out of tape, so to speak. Got mold. Now another factor is a lot of the so bad it's good movies are horror, sci-fi, action, and there's got to be kind of a balance where sort of the acceptable level. This one obviously varies a lot, but it can't be way too extreme in terms of sex and or violence. And also there's I same line with sort of bad taste again, or it needs to be completely the other side of the spectrum where it's just over the top ridiculous, especially if the graphics are bad or the acting is bad. So that's another thing. It's kind of the sort of reminds me of the Uncanny Valley thing where like one end is fine, then it gets bad, the other end is fine. Now, like I mentioned before, ripoffs are great for this kind of stuff because first of all, you have something to compare it to. Like there's character, like if it's a Star Wars ripoff, you're like, oh hey, look, it's Dan alone, not Han Solo. This is part of the reason why Roger Corman movies are great because he made his bread and butter were ripoffs or jumping on trends. I kind of have mixed feelings about Roger Corman, but that's sort of a different issue. Good things, bad things about him. Anywho, it's another show, which I may or may not do. And also, for some reason, bad movies they tend to they either directly reference good movies or they do it in a way that's meant to be like a dig. which why would you remind us of something that you're trying to do but better? Um, I think it was Laser Blast from MST. Um, man, they had such a good dig at Star Wars. It was basically the billboard was basically a piece of plywood with like spray painted just black and white Star Wars on there. So again, that was a great example. Um, again, and older movies tend to be better for this because you have of like the past of like the sexism and racism. Again, it's kind of not like overt, but like where it's still kind of funny, where it's like, oh yeah, the women here just be secretaries or just for sex or whatever, or just for boobs. So that's still kind of happening today. But so was that. Also, people were, I guess I'm going to say more humble if they're trying to say where like being meta and fourth wall breaks weren't really a thing. Um, Scream kind of ruined that for horror movies. Um, but that's part of it too. Is they how was I going to say this? Where it's more like, okay, this is a job, it's serious. Let's get through. Even if behind the scenes they're giggling about it, the movie itself was played straight. Although I'm convinced a lot of movies sort of start out and then they realize, okay, this is kind of going downhill. Let's throw in some comedy and just make it go down, and we'll call it meta. We'll turn it to a comedy or try to, which is sort of um, in production backpedaling. I think that's happens a lot. Um, and I've mentioned before, but for one thing, horror movies are great at this because, especially slashers, they tend to rely on their characters being stupid, especially the crappy slashers, which tend to be this where they don't care, or they just don't have the budget to make better characters. Like, let's just have it be something stupid. It's for plot convenience. Let's do this. And also all the old cliches, where even if it's not a direct ripoff, it's the old cliches of the stoner, the practical joker, the slut, the nerd, the black guy. And they need some kind of effect, simple blood or whatever, which can make, if they're bad, can be right for making fun of. Stupid deaths, both the character being stupid and the death itself was stupid. Um, but also, you got bad taste. You gotta kind of find that balance. Sci-fi movies are good for this. Again, they require some kind of effect, and they're great for seeing how cheap they are. You know, the ripoffs, like, oh, that's my laser sword, not lightsaber at all, kind of thing. They also blend into horror, so you got kind of stupid things like that, where it's like, maybe don't go near that. Oh, okay, nope, you did. Oh, well, you kind of deserve that. Yeah, Roger Corman kind of did a lot of those. I mean, I don't know how many times that man ripped off Alien. um, Now, I haven't seen a lot of like romance type movies that were so bad they're good. Um, but again, they really don't have effects or things like that. But again, the acting can be bad, fall into cliches, not acting like a human, being predictable. Um, I don't know if it's just the kind of stuff I watch where those have been made fun of, but it's it just seems less ripe for the picking. Um, Hallmark movies, kind of similar thread. They're all terrible, and they have a lot of said problems: acting, writing. If there are so-called effects, like I've seen CGI glitter that looked terrible. One problem though is if you make fun of one, you've made fun of all of them because they're all insane. Um, there are a few. And I'm trying to think what romance ones. The only one I can think off the top of my head is Julie and Jack, which is a previous film by James DeWin. But it had a lot of his same traps. I mean, there's sort of soap opera type things that can be too, but again, that's you might end up repeating yourself, especially if you do more than one. Um, and these movies don't have to be indie or old or what. They can be blockbusters that end up being so bad they're good, or at least worth making fun of. The Twilight movies, more recent examples of Madam Web, Morbius. Um, I was gonna watch live action Cats movie on my own. See, well, for one reason to make fun of it, and two to see if I could survive it. But then rifftrax riffed it. They did it with their app where it like listens and syncs up. You have to provide the movie yourself, and even with that, I barely survived. It gave my girlfriend at the time, it gave her nightmares. Um, so that's an option too. You don't have to dig through the bottom of the barrel on, what's free on. I guess we'll go with Tubi and other kind of obscure streaming service. Um, One thing which I realized I skipped is foreign films are also really good for this. For one thing, you have the difference in cultures of people, like what's normal there versus not normal here, that sort of thing. And then you have issues of like the dubbing, of weird voices, poor translations that don't really make sense, or you tell they try to shove in a translation that made sense because there's not really one that is equivalent. There tend to be a lot of ripoffs, especially the older ones, because back they couldn't really get the blockbuster movies there, so they just did their own version, or they could, they just didn't care because it's not really worth the company trying to sue an international company for copyright, trying to go over borders or stuff like that. Or if it's like China, where it's like, don't even bother, you're just wasting your time because you're not going to get anything. And also, you might have issues of, actors past their prime where this is what they can get. Sometimes it's like even sort of referencing their past movies back when they made good movies. So that's kind of a thing. Um, I think so. The summary of is if you're looking for a so bad it's a good movie, first of all, go back to the experts, you know, and either watch them make fun of it and chime in, or do your own. It's happened where started watching a movie in seriousness, but then I realized, oh, this is weird crap. I'm just gonna make fun of it myself. Which, if you're by yourself, then obviously who cares? But that sort of thing. And obviously, one person's bad movie, another person's good movie. I have someone who, when she was a kid, watched and liked the original Super Mario Brothers movie, and that's a hill she's gonna die on. That she likes it. I didn't watch it until I was an adult, and yeah, it's god awful. Um, so that varies. You can discover ones on your own, if you're willing to waste time, and look up Rotten Tomatoes scores, IMDb scores. Although I noticed on IMDb, every single movie has at least one star review and one 10-star review. Good movies have bad reviews because of idiots or contrarians. Bad movies have 10 stars because of idiots and people who think they're clever. And even if I enjoyed a movie, but I enjoyed it because it was bad and I'm making fun of it, or someone else is making fun of it, I still give it a 1 because I didn't enjoy it for its intended purpose. So that's kind of my rule. I know people who are, they enjoyed it regardless of what, they'll give it that score. So bad it's good. TV shows are kind of harder because that's obviously a way bigger investment. I've only done that a few times. Like there was one on Travel Channel, I think it's called Mountain Monsters. My family and I watched it. It was so fake. Rednecks with guns, billy traps. They devolved into this weird like conspiracy and possession, and it just got more and more ridiculous. And we just watched it just to make fun of it. So that's an option. I've heard some people playing so bad it's good video games, which again, that's more of an investment. Like that Desert Bus I think they do that for charity like once a year. That one was kind of intentionally bad though, because it was Penn and Teller, long story. Look it up for yourself. Or like the Zelda CDI games. Um, so bad's good music that also blows up. That goes viral like the Friday song from a few years ago. That's playing in my head right now, unfortunately. But that's just kind of the summary of it. If you want to support my side business, um, such as my necklace, if you're a fan of, I made it myself from the recycled scraps of plastic from 3D printing, and I put links in the description for my shops. Um, this shirt, I believe I got it from Redbubble.com. I'm not gonna put a link. You can look up yourself and I'll put places on this. Um, yeah, and I don't know, maybe I'll do a link to the rifftrax app if you're interested. If you haven't heard about it, which is kind of weird if you're watching this video without it. Um, but yeah, hopefully you like my first video essay. Subscribe if you want for some reason. Um, I'm working on some more kind of random topics. So I'll see you next time. Garden Mass store on Etsy, Garden Mass on Mercari.